Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. Each week, we hear real time stories from athletes and CEOs on how to maximize performance through an endurance mindset. Let's get started. Well, welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. I am thrilled to speak with our guest today. He is an impressive athlete, entrepreneur, and coach, former U.S. Army military intelligence officer, Russian linguistics, spent 15 years in executive management before turning his focus to endurance sports. He's a four-time Ironman finisher, certified coach across triathlon, cycling, track and field, and junior development. He's the founder and CEO of Predictive Fitness, the health and fitness data company behind TriDot and RunDot and now Pool School. Please welcome Jeff Booher. Welcome, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks. Well, correct one thing. I was not an officer in the Army. I was enlisted. I was a grad. So military intelligence, no officer. But yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here.
It's awesome having you on the show. And you gave me a mouthful of intro there, so hopefully I didn't butcher it too bad. But that's part of the personality of podcasting. Jeff, as you know, I love talking about endurance and the endurance mindset. So I wondered, how has your endurance mindset impacted your life unexpectedly?
I think some of it. I think you're drawn to the sport, so I think there's a lot of the mindset that people may have but don't realize they have as they approach the sport, and then they get into the sport, and then things start resonating. I think there's aha moments along the way where you see those similarities. One would be for me, just related to delayed gratification. I guess being willing to work on something for a long, long, long time and hoping and believing and trusting that at some point it'll pay off. Kind of like we do the long races, the long training periods, goals of Ironman or whatever it may be. And I found that in business, in the business I'm running, started creating it. Just really willing to play the long game and having faith that it's going to provide values to athletes and coaches down the road, and being willing to sacrifice, even when people may be mocking you or not as excited about it as you are, and just seeing it through. So I guess delayed gratification is where, more surprisingly, I've seen that resonate in other places in my life too.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, and we'll unpack that. The question that came to mind is, have you figured out a way to, I guess, tell yourself when that delayed gratification is actually a signal you should stop, right? Like we do these long distance endeavors, right? It could be running a business, it could be having a family, it could be Ironman racing, but sometimes you do have to stop and recover or repair or even pivot, right back to that
Yeah.
awful word from COVID. I'm curious if you've kind of come up with any tips or tricks or community around yourself that has helped you sort of identify when stop is stop and not just stop because it's painful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd probably two or three ways. First is I'm, just my faith. I pray about things and really seek out and meditate and read the Bible and such. So I'm really praying for, God to give me discernment on that. And so that's been very effective for me. Seeing where's my pride coming into play? Where's my stubbornness? Second would be my wife. It's kind of a very similar role, getting her to check. She believes in me and supportive, but every once in a while she'll ask, and she just knows how to ask in a way that doesn't, chip away at my ego or anything or make her feel like she's doubting me. But you need that. You need that, someone who knows you well. And then just my business board and investors are really very vulnerable with them, asking them. And sometimes, we have a direction and then we fill in all the details for where the direction should go. And then when it doesn't go like that, we get frustrated. And sometimes the direction's right. It's all those details that are kind of wrong. And we need to clarify that focus. So we're going in the right direction, but it feels like a detour. But sometimes there's something better on the other side, and it's just kind of a path, to get to the ultimate destination. But I think I'm one of those that tries to plan and really see the solution down the road. And that's a positive because I can have that delayed gratification out of belief, and I know this can be done, however long it takes. But at the same time, and one of my board members, Jonathan, he's kind of a counselor as well, going through the ups and downs of, entrepreneurship, But he told me the strength in being able to emotionally be in the future. You can operate there and live there and visualize it and see and problem solve and ideate. That's great, but sometimes it's very hard because emotionally you live there. And then when things don't pan out, it's this emotional, like ripping something away, like you're failing. And it's not failing, your plans are just changing. Something's not going like you thought, but you're so invested and you see that as reality, you see it as current. And so just being able to separate from, okay, here's where we are now, and there's where we can be, but then being able to come back when it comes to budgeting or planning or hiring or these different decisions that you need to be, and emotionally separate yourself from that path and be open to looking at other paths that may be better.
It's so hard, right? That emotional aspect. And I've run a handful of businesses, and the first one, we went through a Chapter 11 bankruptcy process, and I wanted to fight tooth and nail to make this thing work and make it work. And you put down your credit card to cover payroll, and then you do the next thing, and then you do the next thing, and eventually, time does tell the ultimate story. Um, but you do get tied up into that emotion, and having the ability to separate the facts from the emotion is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot, I know I tend and a lot of us, type A driven, you tie outcomes to your identity sometimes, to your self-worth, to your success, to all these things, and building a team around you that sees past all that and they don't really care about that. They cheer you on and want you to be successful, but that's not how they measure you. Is good because you can be vulnerable to them and ask them, and they'll tell you what you need to hear, and giving them permission to do that, over years. And it's the deposits into that relationship for years and years before it comes time when they need to make a withdrawal and tell you something that you may not want to hear. Or, in difficult times, maybe it's them always telling you, but it's the times where you're not as willing to hear as you might normally be or should be.
That's so powerful, Jeff. I'm curious, when did you discover this ability, right? This ability to sort of reframe what you're looking at or pull the emotion away? Because I was just thinking about my career. Like when I first got started, I would be running through brick walls, doing the things that I needed to do. And eventually, sort of over time, with lessons learned, I brought in some more patience, more advisors around me. Do you recall the time in your life that this light bulb went on that say, "Hey, let's take this approach instead of the former"?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a light bulb moment, and you phrase it by when did you get that ability or something like that. I was like, I wouldn't call it ability. It's just to recognize that it's something I struggle with. So just the awareness of it makes you more able to deal with it. So it's just a constant, struggle. I think a lot of our streets, if not managed, become or can become weaknesses. And so just the consciousness of that and being able to ask, hey, should I be thinking about something differently, or hey, am I being defensive here, or anything else? So I think it's more about awareness and maturity, in making the mistakes over time and choosing to learn from them. So I think that's been, the biggest thing.
So my next question, because I'm really keen on this, and the word you use, awareness, is spot on. Is your team? Do you have team awareness in addition to individual awareness?
Just within our organization,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think so. We try real hard at doing that. Going through a lot of culture is very important to us, how we relate. I think the culture is not the words on a wall or the things you aspire to or say. It's how business gets done. How do you hire people? How do you fire people? How do you reward people? How do you train and mentor people? How do you deal with screw ups? They're really bad. The how behind that is the motivation. That's where your values come to be. We invest quite a lot in, living out the values every single day. In our meetings, we have separate calls. We have about 50 people in our organization. Overall, our management team gets together once a month, and we'll have a 90 minute to 2 hour culture call where all we're talking about is our personal updates, and then how the culture going, how are we doing, how are we relating, where do we have things that we need to work on and not let fester within our organization. We are reading books. We have a process called Teamworks that goes through how to engage conflict healthily, how to build a relationship, build trust proactively, so it's there when you need it, and then going through conflict, accountability, and maximizing your time. We work with an outside consultant as well, excellent cultures. And they're just a great group that has a scientific approach they've been using for about 30 years that look at how you relate to different people. That, like I mentioned, the strengths can be weaknesses, and different types of organizations can have need to be skewed to one side or the other. Like a competitive, football team may skew one way, but a psychologist's office may skew another way, or different areas may need different profiles. And so there's actually a process we went through about a year ago, and then some ongoing stuff where we're looking at that, analyzing, going through questionnaires, how do you react in different circumstances, and then building the team out so the team complements. Everyone's not the same, but where we can complement each other. But I think it's the awareness of getting it out there, having the language to use to talk about it, and how we're wired emotionally to react or be maybe defensive in certain areas. We're not as open to listen because we all come with different history. You come with PTSD from a prior job or a boss or any kind of experience. But being able to have the vocabulary to recognize what's going on, so that you're able to deal with that in a healthy way. And so every time we have a challenge or conflict, the goal is to come out on the other side of it closer and have a stronger relationship than we went in. Just like in the military or sports, when you suffer together, you come out the other end closer than you could have ever been had you not been through the suffering.
Yeah, 100%.
The same thing.
That's inspiring, right? And I can feel sort of your passion and your connection to your team and your culture and how that is ingrained and accepted across you as the leader and the team. Any sort of unexpected discoveries come through that process in your technology builds or your inventions or things like related to your business that you say, you know what, it's because we are a strong cultured team that XYZ happened?
Actually, yes. At first I was like, oh, he stumped me. Um, but we've had a lot of things inside our user base. We have a pretty strong community. We've heard a lot of people say they came for the results. They came because they saw people using our platform on the podium, but then they stayed for the community and the culture. And we've had a lot of people say, and they've stayed in the sport because of it. They stayed attached and connected, and it's really cool when you do that. And a lot of the strength, just building a healthy relationship. We've had couples say that we saved their marriage, which is kind of in drug use. There's all kinds of different things where they found a healthy, supportive community and building out that where we're building people up. People are shocked when we have a I Am Tried Out Facebook group, and several other communities. But when you get in there, the positive nature of that, the uplifting, the selfless, the help is just incredible. And I think it started a long time ago with our core team truly wanting to help people and change their lives through sport. But in and I think that kind of culture works as a magnet, and it draws people to that. They're looking for that, they want that, but it also repels people that are the antithesis. There's always going to be negative people that are just toxic. And when you see that contrast, we just haven't had that. We haven't had that negativity. It's been a positive. We found out that a lot of our employees that work on our team now have their different specializations and education's background. And we've hired them, and years later, we found out several years prior, they were around our group, our team, our coaches, someone somewhere. And they said, I want to work for that organization. What do I do? And they'll talk to someone and they'll get closer. They'll become an ambassador, and then they'll volunteer at some events, and then they'll get closer. And they're just cut from the same cloth that we are, have the same passions. And we have numerous people on our staff started out as just people that got exposed to our brand, to our culture, the product, and they kind of worked closer, and they've just been incredible. People to work with. And when you kind of look across the screen or in person, wherever you're at an event or at a boardroom table, and knowing that the people, the thing that makes them get up in the morning with a smile and eager to take on the day, and is the same thing that drives you, or similar and complementary things. It's really cool. So that's been neat to see the culture, not just the technology. I tend to geek out on the technology and dig into details there. I think, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world we've been working on for 20 years, but it's none of that really makes the difference. That's just kind of the enabler, the vehicle through which we're able to relate to people and to build people up and help them. live better, longer, healthier lives.
Yeah, it's a real power of sport, right? That sport brings with it a mindset, healthy mindset, a community we all like to share. Jeff, I'm going to change topics on you slightly. I'd love to hear your entrepreneurial journey. Like, how did Predictive Fitness get started? Were you in a garage? Were you out for a run? Like, get update us on how all this began.
Well, I got exposed. I'd had the military background, been a decathlete, been in sports growing up a whole life. In 2002, I did my first sprint triathlon. So started getting the dad bod, had 3 kids. I'm like, okay, I need something to stay in shape. I love the sport and I'm very competitive. And so I said, all right, this is awesome. I did average my first one. I've been not doing hardly anything for years. So got back into it and I wanted to compete. I want to do well. I want to improve. And I started talking with people that were good in the sport. And they said, oh yeah, well, injuries is a pretty big deal. A lot of people are getting injured. And it was shocking to me. Like, this is not a contact sport. It's not dangerous. Like, if you're not falling off your bike, you shouldn't be getting hurt. And it kind of shocked me. And then they said, oh yeah, if you're going to compete at that level, you need to be trained 20, 25 hours a week. And again, I'm like, there's no way. I'm not doing that to my family first. So I kind of drew a limit. I'm not training more than 12 hours ever, like in a week. And so I started studying, like, how do I be more effective? How can I be more effective with my time? And I read every book, back then, webinar, DVD, VHS, and bought everything and got certified in cycling and track and field and triathlon. It's been about 3 or 4 years. I've been training before in the military athletically, others and stuff. So I had a little bit of a background, but just started, I realized back then that everything was theory based and there was nothing truly based on the data itself. Heart rate monitors had just come out a couple years prior to that. Power meters were just coming out. The heart rate monitors were about quite a bit before that. I think the smartwatches, GPS. So we're able to track things, but the people were basing training on theory and their philosophy, and they point to the data that supported their belief of their philosophy. And so you have very successful coaches, athletes, educated, and they were saying different things and pointing to different data or the same data, but drawing different conclusions. Also, what do you do with that? And so I had a background in information systems. And so I just started building models and tracking things and making it more granular. And I had a triathlon group that I was working with. And I said, hey, everybody, send me your data. I'll do your plan and you give me the data. And I started doing that for 5, 6 years, started the company in 2009. So that group grew from dozens to hundreds over the next 4, 5, 6 years. And I just kept learning. By then I was working with about a dozen pro athletes and just learning everything I could. We launched the company in 2010 and then just continued to grow, build out. So it's AI powered. And we look at all kinds of data. We pull in your genome, your weather data. We customize your workout. If you're inside, then go outside. We'll change your intensity to be in the hot and humid. We look at your age and your gender and your injury predisposition. We're the only platform that properly assesses the athlete, prescribes training, quantifies training stress, muscular stress, neural stress, aerobic and threshold stress individually. And then what is that dissipation rate for each one of those based on your age and your gender and your performance level and your genetics, and then evaluates the quality of what you did, not just so many miles or accumulation metrics, and then predict outcomes. And because we're the only platform that can do any of those things, then we can tie back and improve. We can manage exactly what we're prescribing, measure how its effect on you as an individual, normalize for all of those things, and then improve and get better and better. And so we just started doing that year after year. I knew back in probably 2010 that this was something far more than just triathlon. As I started looking at the data and the things that people do to become great triathletes are the same thing that cyclists and runners, but also just people in general to be healthier and live longer. Is what do you do? How do you take care of yourself? And so that's what we want to use our intelligence platform to use, our intelligence engine, to be able to help people just be healthier. And right now we're squarely but focused on the endurance space with TriDot for triathletes and RunDot for runners. And DOT is data optimized training. And so we take in the data, have proprietary AI models that we've been working on for 20 years. It's not the large language models, or it's not used to giving you theory, repeating back what other people have written about training, but we're actually looking at the data, optimizing your training based on the training for you. And it's not just an automated template. It's truly unique for the individual athlete. So we can give about 30% fewer hours, and you're going to perform better and stay injury free. And I had an example, a guy just 2 weeks ago at Ironman, Texas, the North American Championship Ironman. He won overall amateur champion, finished in 8 hours and 30 minutes. So that's pretty fast. He beat 40% of the pros. The second guy behind him was 12 and a half minutes back. He's 40 years old. And it's, again, at that level, that 8:30 finisher, he's training 25 plus hours. He trains an average under 15 hours a week.
Wow.
So he's being able to have his career, his marriage, his life, all that stuff, stay healthy, and still perform at that level. And so that kind of goes back full circle to why I started. It was a very selfish endeavor. I'm competitive and wanted to achieve and do, and the greatness of sport, what we all love about it. But I wanted to do it where I wasn't giving up the rest of my life. I didn't want to sacrifice other things that were more important. So be able to build and pull out people on our team that are going to kind of build that out and deliver to people around the world. They're able to get into the sport, whether it's marathons or half marathons or sprint triathlons, and just do all they can to achieve their potential. It's been super exciting. So probably more than you wanted to know. But
No, that's everything I wanted to know. Well, not everything, but most. I mean, what's really doing is opening the door, right? It's opening the doors, bringing down barriers. Because you're right. Like if you want to get a full distance triathlon, most plans will be like, all right, 20, 25 hours a week, and you're doing the century rides by week X, and you're doing X and Y, and like my wife and I have done triathlon long distance for many, many years with 2 kids and 2 jobs. And it sucks up your life,
yeah,
in a good way, right? Because we feel fit and healthy and setting good examples. But Jeff, also talk about the pool program you put in. Like talk about lowering barriers, right? I'd probably say in my experience, like the number one barrier is the swim. Like I talk to future potential triathletes and they're like, yeah, if I could only swim, I don't want to do open water. It's swimming, it's swimming, it's swimming.
yeah,
And you guys have come up with something really clever and creative, and I'd love for you to talk about it.
sure. Yes, tried out pool school, as we call it, about 3 years ago. Uh, we were doing how can we help more people, and it's not a technological offering. It's like a live weekend course, but we realized that it's the swim. Just like you said, there's millions of cyclists and runners that would love to be triathletes were it not for the swim. And so if we could just provide something, and we also had people that just kind of endured the swim. Or the first time we did a pool school, I had a guy come up to me the night before and he said, just to let you know, if I don't significantly increase, I'm quitting the sport. And it's like, no pressure. And another guy said, same. He goes, I'm tired of coming out the back of the pack on the swim, passing 1,000 people and being just off the podium by 3 or 4 people. It's just horrible. It sucks. It's frustrating. And so I know people that are competitive in cycling and running, they want to perform well at the swim also. So we pulled together. I had coached a high performance youth and junior team, multiple national champions. So is drafted eagle. So the swim like really matters, or you get dropped on the bike, you don't get a good bike pack. And taught juniors, great athletes, how to swim pretty efficiently, work with some incredible coaches and learn from them and develop the system. And so I use that system as very quick. Like, what is the quickest way? If I have 2 nights a week with these kids and they got to qualify for nationals, and they all did on 2 nights of swimming a week, having not swam before, how do you do that? And again, they're not little kids. They're 13, 11 to 16, 17. And so we developed a program. It's a 2-day, 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday. And you use some dry land. We give you videos of you do these dry land exercises, movements ahead of time to start building the muscle memory. You show up and we'll have a lot of fun. We'll be in the water, have demos. You'll work with coach. There's generally 2 coaches per lane and 4 to 6 people per lane. So it's at worst 1 to 3 coach to athlete ratio. And we work with athletes, bring them through every level. From just learning how to swim. As long as you can keep your face on the water and kick across the pool with fins, you're good to go. So we've had average improvement is about just under 13%, 12.9% average improvement. Like Andrew Hall, that I mentioned earlier, the North American Championship, he went through 2 years ago, went from a 109 per 100 to a 57 second per 100. So he took, at that pace, 12 seconds. Mark Allen, the GOAT, greatest of all time, he came in and went 110 to start and left at 104. So he took 6 seconds off. Swam in college 40 years. So it's a very novel approach. We call it is not a flaw focused swimming where you look at the flaw and you try to fix it, because that creates compensation. You don't fix the root cause and just address the symptom. What we do is a ground up approach. So it's going to take you from your balance, your breathing, your kicking, and gradually progresses in the most simple, efficient way. So there's many things that athletes have been told their whole life in swimming that we don't even address because it's not a problem anymore. We eliminate the cause so it doesn't show up as a symptom, and they're able to bilateral breathe. They're able to do a whole lot of things that they didn't think they could. So it's been very successful. And we have it all across the US and Spain, all over UK, and we're expanding as we add coaches through our Ironman relationship. We have a lot of coaches growing in Germany and Switzerland and kind of all over in Australia. So as we add different groups of coaches, we build it around the coach team. So the model is we will develop a team there, find a group of coaches that want to work together. They kind of collaborate. We'll come in and bring some of our staff to help them do it the first time. And then over a couple, 2, 3, 4 pool schools, their whole team is trained up. And so they have a hub there locally that athletes can come to and learn and get that same consistent improvement through those coaches. And those coaches are able to grow their own local community.
It sounds like a perfect excuse for me to go on my next family vacation to Spain or Australia or somewhere, right? Like, why go where I could drive when I could take the whole gang, get in 2 days worth of swim training, and then have a nice vacation?
That's right. That's right. I might have to get an exotic location. I'll have to meet you there.
Yeah, 100%. It's business related.
Yeah.
So Jeff, you talked earlier at the beginning of this show about delayed gratification. So what's next? What's next for TriDot Predictive Fitness? Where do you see the future?
There's a whole lot of technological things that we're doing it's just mind blowing. Great stuff. Pulling on a lot of data that you would not know that you could pull on to account to make your time even more efficient. We're doing a lot, even in the functional movement area, being able to make sure that people are moving in a healthy way with remediation. That's something we've been working on for about 10 years. So several things like that we're super excited about. We're doing a lot more in the running space and cycling space, being able to do a lot more. So those are very different motivations, different psychology of those athletes. And so that's really cool to learn and to bring those coaches and athletes kind of into the fold and provide them with structure. We're doing a lot to help coaches invest in their business, creating mastermind groups to where coaches will come in. A lot of coaches, they get certified, they may learn something or what they did. There's not a lot of progression past that in their learnings. And so we provide that certification program through Ironman U. We operate that program, run that program. But then we also have called Coach Mastermind groups, where it's fortnightly. It's every other week. The coaches are meeting in a group of 8 to 12, and they're brainstorming stuff, learning stuff, bringing their challenges and getting content from a facilitator, someone professionally facilitating those. So coaches are going from working on an island or with, by themselves essentially, to hearing what these other coaches around the world are doing and being best practices. And then we take the best practices from all of those mastermind groups and share them. So you're learning from this vast network of people at a very fast pace and able to ramp up your skills. So coaches new coming on with just a few athletes are able to hear how do you close? How do you communicate your value? How do you retain athletes? How do you help athletes dealing with different things to, foot problems, to injuries, to all kinds of different. So it's been great being able to build that out and really help coaches. I think the three essential entities in our sport, triathlon, are coaches, race directors, and athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Have all of them. You can't have anyone. And so we're trying to support all three of those through what we're doing, through the community, through the partnerships, helping people bring them into the sport, helps everybody, rising tide. But then really helping them at the technological level, the community level, the support, and even through their businesses. How do you help them make more money? And it's more sustainable. Most coaches aren't in it just to make a lot of money, but it takes money to be able to keep doing it. And so we find that there's a lot of coaches coming up that are passionate about it, and they get to where they believe they've tapped out the earning potential, and they have 10, 15 years of this experience, and then have to go off to another vocation just to continue to provide more for their family as their kids get older. And so that's sad to me. We're losing a lot of expertise in the sport, and they build great communities. A lot of times those groups of athletes disband teams. So being able to build them where they can just keep growing and keep growing and keep growing helps the sport, helps them, and they're adding so much value, but they shouldn't have to sacrifice, kind of like me with my training time. They shouldn't have to sacrifice their family or their well-being or their retirement just because there's a better model. They're not aware that there's a better model out there to help them do that.
Yeah, it's that entrepreneurial journey, right? That we just discover we're good at something. We find somebody who's willing to pay for it. We do a little bit more. We do a little bit more. And next thing you know, you've got employees, or you've got 401k, and you got payroll. And next thing you know, you're really not doing as much of what you love as what you did when you started. So it's fantastic that you're providing that support system for the coaching community, because it's true, right? I mean, they reach capacity. It's a competitive market. There's the business side of the business. I didn't realize that about Predictive Fitness, and I've got a real big appreciation for it. So Jeff, if an audience member wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Through our website, www.tridot.com. We have several information there. We're online, and Tridot is the Facebook group. So just reach out. We'll look for us at races, any Ironman race. We're going to be there with a tent and a group of coaches, and I'd love to shake your hand, meet your face, meet you face to face, and cheer you on race day.
That's awesome. And we'll include those in the show notes. Jeff, it's been fantastic having you on the show. And I applaud your innovation and your delayed gratification and sticking with, right, the technology drive with Predictive Fitness, knowing that there is a bigger goal that you're trying to achieve and sticking with it, right? I mean, that's endurance mindset, true and true. Audience members, if you got some value out of the show, please subscribe. Please share this with your community. I'd love to get Jeff's message and his technology out to the broader community. Again, Jeff, it's been great having you on the show today.
It's been an honor. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chief Endurance Officer podcast. To hear more inspiring stories and strategies around the endurance mindset, be sure to subscribe below or visit us at chiefelduranceofficer.com. Until next time, keep pushing those limits.